Shall we begin?
Yes.
Okay. So hello and a very good evening once again to all our viewers on Zoom and on Facebook. I hope those who could not connect to us in past 2 days have got the message that we are live on Facebook as well. So you can please connect to us there. I, Dr. Dhwani Sanvi from Team Aquacentric would like to welcome you all on day 3 of our Aquacentric Therapy webinar. So last 2 days, as we know, we have been concentrating more on the management and rehabilitation in orthopedic conditions. But today our topic is going to be on management of obesity, which I believe is one of the major comorbid factors for all the health conditions. So we have 3 speakers for today, and each speaker has a slot of 20 minutes. They are going to be sharing their knowledge on the field of obesity. Each viewer is requested that please feed in your questions in the Q&A section that is present on your screen. This is for all the Zoom viewers. Please do not feed in your questions in the chat section. And also the viewers who are seeing us on Facebook can feed in their questions in the comment section. We have a team there who will be sending us questions from Facebook as well. So we begin with today's session, and I would like to introduce our chairperson for today, Dr. Sudeep Kale. Dr. Sudeep Kale specializes with physiotherapy in cardiorespiratory conditions. He has done his master's from Pune University and his PhD from MUHS University. He is currently the president of Maharashtra OTPT Council and is also an associate professor at Terna Physiotherapy College, Navi Mumbai. He is the first physiotherapy teacher to receive the Best Teachers Award in the year 2012-2013. He is also an author of the book Breathing Retraining in COPD Patients. He has various achievements and awards for his credit. So I would like to welcome you, sir, and I hand over the mic to you and you can take the proceeding forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to all. It's my honor to introduce the first scholarly speaker, Dr. Shashank Shah. Dr. Shashank Shah is a pioneer and leading bariatric surgeon in India. Sir has served many associations in the capacity of president. Sir was president of Obesity and Metabolic Surgery Society of India. He was the president of International Excellence Federation, also All India Association of Advanced Research in Obesity. We are very happy to have such a scholarly speaker today, the speaker who has many world records on his name. Dr. Shah has many world records and his name is recorded in the Limca Book of World Record for performing 45 hernia surgeries in 10 hours. This was the first record. His name is also recorded in Limca Book for successfully operating bariatric surgery on the youngest child. Sir has one more record in the World Book, that is for operating the heaviest British lady. Her weight was 310 kg. Also, sir has a world record for operating the heaviest Asian lady who was weighing 300 kgs. Sir has one more record which is recorded in the Limca Book of India, and that was for operating the heaviest lady. I request sir to kindly deliver a talk on obesity management, a team approach.
Good evening, everyone. I am audible. Thank you for the kind introduction. First of all, let me thank Aquacentric for this unique initiative of this webinar. Let me first say, wish all of you a good health, stay home, stay safe, and we are still learning, sharing our experiences. And today I'm going to talk about obesity, a team approach. Being a bariatric surgeon, actually, I am going to focus my presentation on examples of bariatric surgery, and then I will try and give examples as to how it can be correlated with a team approach. Obesity, as you know, it is thought to be a disease of metabolism. Everyone is worried about metabolism, but it's a multifactorial disorder of metabolism, genetics, environmental factors, hormones, gut microbiota, and so on. And it's a complex disorder, so you need multiple consultants to treat it. Today's topic is how we can use it as a team approach, but quickly I'll take you about what is obesity, and in my 20 years, what have I learned. This is a photograph of two real brothers, same mother, same blood group, same environment. And if you look at them, one looks very thin, trying to gain weight, and other is trying to lose weight. And this is the paradox of obesity. One is unfortunately has a very protective metabolism and cannot gain weight. Once we understand this, we come to the factor of how to treat it. And we always think that it's based only on diet and exercise. This is an example of a 7-month-old baby was adopted by me, and we tried to save the baby, but we couldn't. Baby had leptin deficiency. And that is why the baby's breast could never understand that the stomach is full, and baby continued to eat, and it eventually died because of excess weight. So that means someone can be hungry because of hormones. And the first message is your hunger, your metabolism, all can be governed by hormones. This is a picture of intestinal tract. When food goes into the stomach, there are certain hormones, especially the hunger hormone, which governs one's hunger, satiety, frequency of eating. As it starts going through various parts of intestine, upper part of intestine, lower part of intestine, last part of intestine, n number of hormones are secreted. They interact with your liver, spleen, pancreas, brain, and all the organs, and eventually decide storage of energy or expenditure of energy, what we call as metabolism. And speed of intestinal transit could be different. Total length of intestine could be different. And that is why this interaction of intestinal hormones could be different from each individual. And that is why we see different obesity, different reflection, different diseases, all together a different complex. I'm giving you some examples. This is an example of a lady who came to us, and then we got the World Book, Limca Book, and India Book of Record for losing maximum 215 kgs at the end of 5 years. And this is the lady. She was known as Indian Iman because she was bedridden for 10 to 12 years, single kidney, diabetes, a lot of swelling, and we almost needed every specialist to treat her. We needed an obesity physician to optimize medications for diabetes, kidney disease, swelling. Obviously, we had to prepare her. We needed a nutritionist and giving her low calorie but nutrition and healthy diet. We almost required 3 months for her to prepare. We needed an endocrinologist, physiotherapist. It was a challenge to make her get up, to make her walk, make her breathe. Pulmonologists were involved, radiologists were involved, anesthetist, surgeon. Almost you can name the specialty which is required in the treatment of obesity, and we had to have them involved in her preparation. And these are actually the ideal guidelines of any international center of excellence for management of obesity. You need all these elements, all specialists treating the patient together. You can see her journey and the eventual success. She came to 85 kg. She moved around, in a local in Mumbai. But now I really wish if I could have some therapy like aquacentric therapy to make her walk, it would have made us easier to prepare her, and even her post-operative recovery would have been much better. Now, let me give you an example. I have actually myself visited the facility. It's a world-class facility I've never seen before, and I definitely learned more. And I learned that all these patients, because they have severe osteoarthritis, spine disorders, breathlessness, they need exercise where all that weight-bearing element could be minimized. When they are underwater, their weight-bearing capacity becomes less, they become lighter, so they can exercise more, they burn more calories, they get more pain relief, at the same time it is enjoyable. Just imagine trying to hold this lady, we would need maybe 7 to 8 people, but in an aqua therapy with a hoist, it would be very easy for her to exercise, and we definitely worked on her extensively for a longer period. One such therapy can definitely be useful, and I'll be giving you more examples. Giving you the basis of any therapy, if you're looking at treating obesity, then it is based on BMI, actual weight, but we also look at body composition. A person with higher body fat percentage also needs aggressive treatment. Evaluation of various comorbidities, which I will talk about, but that is the main focus. We definitely need nutritional evaluation counseling throughout. Evaluation of patient's physical activity prior to our visit, during our visit, and then after our treatment, and lifestyle evaluation, because all these elements have to be together to achieve a long-term success. This is the algorithm which we follow. I have grouped them into 3 or 4 groups. 25 to 28 is those who have grade 1 obesity. Definitely one can focus on lifestyle modification, diet and exercise, and continue to keep them engaged in this. Most often, this should work if it is in a certified center and the patient's commitment is high. But if it doesn't, we move them to the next sector, BMI 28 to 32. That means those who have maybe about 15 to 25 kg, 20 kg of excess weight. We could add some pharmacotherapy, medications. If not responded, we can add balloons. And if this doesn't work, then eventually maybe the last treatment is bariatric surgery for those who are morbidly obese, BMI 32.5 and above, or generally you can say 80-85 kg for a 5 feet height and above, and if they have more diseases. Of course, why do we need bariatric surgery? But I will look at this. This is an award received from American Diabetes Association for treatment of type 2 diabetes for surgery, and diabetics also need all types of physiotherapies, all these specialists together to treat. Now, who should undergo diabetes surgery? All those with uncontrolled type 2 diabetes, prominent belly or central obesity. If they start getting diseases like neuropathy, sexual dysfunction, renal dysfunction, or retinopathy, or involvement of eyes, these can be very aggressively treated. However, surgery is not the only tool, they need to be followed. I would like to share one best example of all these specialists coming together and treating someone. 12 years ago, I was blessed to treat Padma Shri Dr. D.Y. Patil. He was on high doses of insulin with heart disease, and I am happy that with 12 years of sustained follow-up with physiotherapists, exercise therapists, nutritionists, all physicians, he has maintained his weight loss. He is free from diabetes, and he is almost 87 years old just now. The primary goal of treating obesity is not just weight loss. Weight is just a number. Patient comes to you for maybe relief from joint pain, avoid joint replacement, or improve the results. Maybe treatment of infertility, get relief from breathlessness or snoring, get urinary incontinence treated, get varicose veins or ulcers treated, fatty liver, which can progress to liver cirrhosis or cancer, needs to be prevented. And of course, to improve their psychosocial status, make them feel better about themselves, improve their self-esteem. This is an example of a lady who had severe osteoarthritis of both knee joint and also needed some spine surgery. You can see her improve. This is a typical example of a patient who would be best treated by aquatherapy or aquacentric therapy, where the post-operative recovery can be much faster. She can walk, she can exercise without pain and more comfortably. And I'm going to recommend most of my patients who cannot exercise in the gym, to attend this new therapy, which it seems to be like a future. Another element is urinary incontinence. Now, urinary incontinence in these patients is primarily because of 2 reasons. Number 1 is increase in intra-abdominal pressure because of fat, which exerts pressure on the weakest valve, and they cannot control urine on stressing or whatever. And there is pelvic muscle dysfunction. Even though bariatric surgery treats it or significant weight loss treats it, if aquatherapy, pelvic muscle exercises can be added to this post-operatively, they will very quickly get relief from urinary incontinence. And that is why I added these examples. And because I visited the center, I'm all the time visualizing which patients would be benefited after my therapy to the best. Look at this young boy who was 200 kgs. It was very difficult for him to walk or do any gym. It took longer time for him to be better. But if I had enrolled him in aquacentric therapy, if it was available that time, maybe I think for such a boy it would be an enjoyable exercise, more comfortable, and he would lose weight faster. This is a girl who wanted to, to win awards in sports. She ultimately did, but absolute focus on physiotherapy, strengthening her muscles, and exercise could make her achieve that. So this is an element where physiotherapy is important. This is another example: type 2 diabetes, osteoarthritis, urine incontinence, backache, all together, patient on insulin, feeling hypoglycemic, shortness of breath. We treat her with surgery, but the post-operative recovery was improved only because of proper nutrition, exercise, physiotherapy, adequate control by pharmacotherapy, and nutrition. So unless we have all these elements together, you don't get the best result. This is one example of a lady who maintained adequate physiotherapy, exercise all throughout because she was a professional dancer. And with that, she could maintain this result almost up to 15 years. This is another example of a lady. Of course, we get ladies with infertility, polycystic ovarian disease, hyperinsulinemia, and they're extremely bothered about their obesity and the emotional challenge of conceiving soon, and IVF and hormone and obesity is a challenge. They also need to strengthen their pelvic muscle. I believe that these definitely would be benefited by aquacentric therapy, and with or without medical therapy, balloon surgery, whatever, but that should be combined, and their result would be faster because they have very less time to lose weight and be at the age to conceive before their ovaries get exhausted. The same holds true even for males. Even in males, fat converts male hormone into female hormones. We see that as gynecomastia. So even male infertility could be treated this way. There are different types of procedure: non-invasive, invasive, balloon, endoscopic suturing, or actual surgery. But all these surgeries do need every element of treatment. Every therapy needs adjuvant therapy. Could be nutrition, could be exercise, could be physiotherapy. Exercises in these patients have to be less weight bearing and they should burn more calories. So I definitely look at aquatherapy as the newer option for all my patients to accelerate the results. Of course, nutritional supplements, macro and micro, important. Support groups, any such Zoom meetings to motivate them, keep them motivated for lifelong, and these therapies are needed for lifetime. They need to change their lifestyle to a newer lifestyle, and they can definitely maintain their results lifelong like this. These are two examples of ladies who have maintained it almost for 15 to 17 years, but all these elements of specialists were with these patients almost for 17 years, going with them. This is another last example, 300 kg British. And I wish for someone like this, for someone like a boy, someone with infertility, someone with urine incontinence, almost everyone should need some kind of physiotherapy. They should start with aquatherapy. They can use it for maintenance in addition to their exercise, their diet control and everything. And they can maintain results like this gentleman who came down from 300 to 100 and maintained almost for 12 years. I think in short, I just wanted to express that obesity is a disease. I wanted to give example of bariatric surgery, maybe a different science, but a scientific modality for long-term and sustained weight loss for those who don't succeed by routine modalities of weight loss and have life-threatening or disturbing comorbidities. Could be psychosocial, could be diabetes, could be blood pressure, could be osteoarthritis, could be knee joint. Thank you so much. Dr. Sudeep. We will be available for any questions at the end, and this video would be available on Facebook, YouTube for anyone to refer to and ask us any questions about management of obesity, aquatherapy, how to access them, and so on. Thank you, Dr. Sudeep.
Now I request Dr. Pooja Kamble. She will deliver a topic on physiotherapy perspective in obesity management. I am pleased to introduce Dr. Pooja Kamble. She has done her master's in physiotherapy in cardiorespiratory physiotherapy. She is a certified transvaginal and transrectal female pelvic floor rehabilitation specialist, and she is practicing in this area. Her interest of area is also obesity management. I request Dr. Pooja to kindly proceed with the lecture.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Subdeep Kale, for such a warm introduction. Thank you, Dr. Shashank, for sharing your knowledge and enlightening us with the same. So today I will be talking about physiotherapy perspective in obesity management. Myself, Dr. Pooja Kamble. So obesity is defined as abnormal excessive fat accumulation which presents as a risk to health. Body mass index is used as a screening tool for weight categories that may lead to certain health problems. Thus, people who fall in the range of 18.5 to 25 are considered as having normal weight. And once the people increase in the weight as the BMI increases, the BMI categorized as obese, obese class 1, obese class 2, and obese class 3. Now, the types of obesity can be centralized, that is android and gynecoid. The way in which body fat is distributed in the body is more important. Thus, the waist-hip ratio is strongly associated with visceral fat or the impact of regional fat distribution. Thus, the strongly association with the disease. Now, what are the risk factors associated with obesity? Fat cells are insulin resistant. Thus, a pre-diabetic condition which is insulin resistance develop and can lead to type 2 diabetes. Increase in cholesterol causes free-floating fat accumulation and causes increase in blood pressure, cerebrovascular accident, and increases the chances of coronary artery diseases. Changes in the environment due to fat cell causes release of certain chemicals that make cell act differently. So the potential of becoming them cancerous can increase. Now, due to overweight or excessive fat, there is increase of joint loading that can increase the pain. In people who have excessive fat accumulation around the neck area, can have symptoms of repeated collapse of the upper airway, thus producing a ventilation perfusion mismatch, causing sleep apnea. Now, what are the factors responsible for obesity? Sedentary lifestyle can cause one to grow towards obesity. Food rich in high saturated fats, high carbohydrate content, example burgers, pizzas, and Coke. Genetics play a role by altering the hormones which are involved in fat regulation. The amount and how much time you eat is also important. Medications like antidepressants, antihistamines, oral contraceptives can also lead to weight gain. Factors such as boredom, sadness, and stress can cause increase in obesity. Diseases such as Cushing syndrome can also lead to obesity. Now, the number and size of fat cell is also important. Very rarely there can be increase in the number and the size of fat cell, which is seen in obese class 3, but in overweight, obese, and obese class 1, there is only increase in the number of size of the increase in the size of the fat cell and not the number. Of course, diet, physical activity, and lifestyle plays a very important role. Now, there is an energy balance in the body which is affected by the calorie intake and the calorie expenditure. Thus, imbalance in causes either weight loss or weight gain. Suppose if you are eating less or optimum amount of food which is required for your body, and you are doing appropriate amount of exercises and the energy expenditure is well, you will certainly lead to weight loss. On the other hand, if you're eating too much amount of food but the energy expenditure is very less compared to the amount of food you eat, you will gain weight. Now, how does physical activity help? Exercises help burn calories. It improves the functioning of the autonomous nervous system. It increases the oxygen uptake, thus improving the lung and the cardiac function. It improves muscular strength and endurance. Biomechanically, it improves the motor skill and proprioception, thus helping with the balance and coordination. It increases one's self-confidence, self-efficacy. It reduces the depression and anxiety rate. It helps with the stress management and improves our sleeping pattern, thus maintaining our overall well-being. Now, before getting involved in any kind of physical activity, it is highly recommended for a pre-participation screening to be done, which involves filling up of certain questionnaires and receiving various profiles from the clients or the patient. Now, the physical activity readiness questionnaire, which helps to be cautioned about any further side effects to the individual, or does the individual need a medical clearance before from their physicians before starting any exercise program. The second questionnaire being the medical health questionnaire, which involves questions such as history of hospitalization, in which year or month, any medications involved, past history of any chronic lung infections, changes in motor functions like slurring of speech, blurriness of vision, or any oral medication, any surgeries performed in the past. The third is the lifestyle evaluation questionnaire, which involves questions like, do you consume alcohol? How many times in a week or a day? Do you smoke cigarette and how many packets per week? Have you tried exercising before? Detailed job description, a little bit of dietary habits, example, how often do you eat and how much? Or do you add extra salt to your food? We are supposed to sign the informed consent of the patient, and we will require recent blood tests and cardiac profiles if available will be good. Once we get a detailed history, we will classify them according to the ACSM guidelines. This will help us to place them according to the risk factors. Assessment part, we will mostly focus on the health related physical fitness. In health related physical fitness, we will be taking the height, weight, BMI, waist hip ratio, girth measurements, and additional assessment which will have percentage of fat free mass, percentage of body fat, and fat mass. In cardiorespiratory endurance, we will be checking their vitals. We will be performing a 6-minute walk test. We will be taking their modified Borg scale, and we will be having Carnovan's formula for their training intensity zone. And a talk test can be used, and it is based on relationship between the exercise intensity and the pulmonary ventilation. In muscle strength, we will be grading them according to the MRC grading. In muscular endurance, for the upper body, we will be either using the arm curl test or the push-up test. In the middle body, we will be using the plank test. In the lower body, it will be the sit-to-stand test. In flexibility, we will be measuring them according to the goniometer, tape measurements, or the sit and reach test. Now, once we are done with the history taking and a thorough assessment of the client or the patient, we can start with the exercise program. In the older days, exercises were done based on the land, but now Aqua has added a better perspective for the same. On land, the FIT principle and the Carnovan's formula for intensity is used, and for overweight and obese client, it clearly states that 5 days per week, and intensity is starting from 40% and going up to 75% of heart rate reserve can be used. The time should be starting of 30 minutes to day 1, and then progression should be 150 minutes per week, and eventually the progression should be 300 minutes per week. The type can involve is aerobic as well as resistance training. The volume can be measured by, if not 150 minutes per week, it can be 5,000 to 7,000 steps approximately per day. The progression has to be gradual increase in time and duration. As we have intensity on land with Carnovan's formula, the same cannot be followed in aqua because of the properties of water and the cardiovascular function in water. Thus, we have a aquatic deduction equation for more accuracy in monitoring aquatic heart rate. For example, if we take a 50-year-old woman with a resting heart rate of 70 and which we want her to be at a 65% of intensity. Thus, on land with the Carnovan's formula, we will be using it and we will get a land equation. But for the aquatic deduction equation, we will make the patient and the lady enter the water, and after 3 minutes we will take a heart rate. Now we are going to deduct the land heart rate from the aquatic heart rate, and we are going to get a number. For the 50-year-old lady in the example, the number is 8. So how the 8 is going to add in the Carnovan's formula will be here. Okay. Thus we get a aquatic heart rate. So if you see, the land heart rate for the same individual and the aquatic heart rate differ. Now going ahead, for bariatric surgery cases, initially for 3 months we have to go slow, where the intensity can be mild to moderate, and the progress should be based on the difference achieved at least after 10 sessions. So when the patients are doing land therapy workouts, the according to the American Heart Association and the American Society of Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery, 20 minutes of starting exercise and can progress slowly, and 3 to 4 times per day is good for them. And in aqua as well, taking into consideration the aquatic heart rate and the temperature of the pool below 34 degrees Celsius is good for them. The chest level depth is acceptable, and the exercises which involve range of motion, strength and training, aerobic, balance and coordination can be used. Literature says that a program that begins in water and moves to land as strength, endurance, and tolerance build up may be the most effective method of achieving both the conditioning and weight loss. Now, program should consist of, whether in land or in aqua, it should start with a warm up for 5 to 10 minutes, low to moderate intensity involving stretching, spot marching, slow walks. The purpose remains to prepare the body for the exercises by increasing the heart rate, blood flow to the tissues, increasing the muscle temperature, and slowly and safely. Now in the conditioning phase, which will last from 20 to 60 minutes, it can involve aerobics, resistance, sport activities, or combination of any, but depending upon the person's goal to achieve. In cool down, again, 5 to 10 minutes, which help in bringing back the body to resting state, passive stretching, major group of muscles, slow bouts of exercises. Why all this? Because the sympathetic activity increases. Thus, a sudden stoppage can cause the risk of arrhythmias or sudden drop in blood pressure, causing a person to collapse. Now, in Aquatic Physiotherapy Center, we have a multifaceted services involving water, land, and air-based elements in a world-class environment. In Aqua, we have temperature-regulated pools, wherein the temperature is maintained to 33 to 35 degrees Celsius, which provides therapeutic warmth to the body, helping in muscle relaxation, calming, and helps with pain reduction. Now, because of buoyancy phenomena, water helps in reducing the compression on the joints. Immersion up to the neck level comprises of 90% reduction in compression on the joints, whereas to the waist level, it is 50% reduction on the joints. Thus, a low stress environment is created on the joints, making it easier to move in water, even in an underwater treadmill. Now, density of water, it is more dense than air. So the resistance is felt more in water, thus improving your muscle strength. Full range of motion exercises with less stress on the joints can be performed. So in the still image, we can see the client is floating in water and we are mobilizing the shoulder. The case is a arthritic shoulder which involved too much of pain and the range of motion was restricted. In water, we have a full range of motion exercises which can be performed in a low stress environment. Now, the pressure of water causes increase of blood flow, thus resulting in increase in the oxygen delivery to the tissues. It increases in the renal blood flow by 10%. It increases the urine output and waste increases. waste excretion, thus helps with edema and reducing the swelling on the joints. It increases the sensory output, thus helping with the balance activities. If you must have seen in the videos, kicking actions and jumping on land is much difficult than to perform in aqua because of the properties of water. Viscosity helps with resistance. Various tools and devices can be used to manipulate the amount of resistance required for optimal outcome. For example, in land, if a patient cannot use 1 kg weight, we will obviously start with a half kg weight. In water, the same thing happens. We will not start with a higher resistance. First, we will only start with the resistance of water. And once the strength and endurance increases, we will give them certain resistance tools and devices which will help their strength and endurance further. Now moving ahead, there are various land exercises which can be performed using Theramans, weight cuffs, and of course, depending upon the level of fitness achieved by the client. Machine-based exercises can be added to the normal routine exercises as well, the ones you can see in the pictures on the right. Once your power and strength improves, more advanced level of training can be performed, but under our supervision, of course. Example, the picture on the left where the training is happening. Advanced level of fitness can also be achieved with the Pilates reformer, which focuses on your core, your upper body, and your lower body strength. MI7 whole body workout can also be advanced with a good core activation. Now, who all can benefit from aquatherapy? Right from the pediatric population to the elderly, before surgery, after surgery, patients with stroke, Parkinson's, spinal cord injury clients, spina bifida, Down syndrome, orthopedic conditions, pregnancy, obesity, everyone can take the benefits of aquatherapy. But once we have checked you thoroughly before entering the pool. Everyone should know we do not live in water. A comprehensive aquatic rehab program should incorporate the transition from aqua to land, thus improving the quality of life and ease the burden of care. And it's important to exercise in land and aqua. Both are important for a better outcome. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening so patiently.
Dr. Sudeep, you can take over.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja, for this talk. Now, sir has already said that it is a team approach, and one of the most important member of this team is a nutritionist. So I'm going to invite Dr. Radhika Shah. She is a nutritionist and dietetics. She has done her bachelor BSc degree in nutrition, also postgraduate diploma in nutrition and dietetics. She is a registered dietitian and consulting bariatric nutritionist. She has completed her post-graduation in AZ St. Jan Hospital, Belgium. She is a first bariatric fellow in India. She has an experience of 5 years, and her area of master's and specialties comprehensive care of type 2 diabetes and obesity. I request her to deliver a talk on role of nutrition in obesity management. Dr. Radhika Shah.
Thank you, Dr. Sudeep, for the introduction, and I must thank Dr. Amit Kohli and Team Aquacentric for this wonderful webinar. Now, I must tell you that obesity and nutrition go hand in hand. And I think today, you have given me 20 minutes to discuss about obesity and nutrition. which is ideally a very short time to discuss obesity and nutrition. But I must tell you that we are organizing the first Nutribolism conference in association with Aquacentric to discuss more about nutrition, metabolism, and more. And the conference is named as Nutribolism 2020. Of course, once the pandemic of obesity of COVID-19 is under control, we would discuss and we would declare the dates for the conference. And I am welcoming you all for this conference. Whenever we hear the word obesity, whenever we hear a word obesity, what comes to our mind is maybe a diet, nutrition, and a nutritionist. Of course, obesity is related to nutrition, but obesity is a multifactorial disease. Like you see, there are different factors, what even our physiotherapist and Dr. Shah mentioned. There are different reasons why a patient or a person may gain weight. Different reasons like sleep disruption, stress, medical factors, immune system, gut microbiota, hormonal changes, and of course, genetics. With all this, nutrition is one of the most important factors that affects your weight and treatments related to weight. Because it's a multifactorial disease, of course, the management of this disease is a multidisciplinary, and we need a team to treat this disease. There are different approaches for the treatment of obesity. Like you can see here, there could be diet, that is nutrition and lifestyle modification. There could be physical activity plus diet plus lifestyle modification. Pharmacotherapy, diet, physical activity, and lifestyle modification. And then could be bariatric surgery with the factors about wherein nutrition still plays a very important role. If you see all the approaches, now the approaches to the treatment of obesity are selected based upon the patient's BMI, disease, etc. And then the treatment is offered. No matter what the treatment is offered for a patient who is suffering from obesity, diet and nutrition remains the crucial part of the treatment. Nutrition is a lifelong requirement. I must tell you, diets don't have an expiry date. So whatever you change has to be a lifestyle modification and not a diet for a particular period of time. For many people, diets serve or nutrition serve as a preventive treatment. We rightly say prevention is better than cure. Patients who have obesity or diabetes in the genetics, or they are prone to obesity because of the environmental factors, sedentary lifestyle, then they should use and take a healthy diet, a calorie deficient and nutrient dense diet to prevent obesity. Nutrition also plays a very important role in weight treatment. Diet and nutrition plays a role to treat the obesity. And of course, maintenance. No matter what intervention we do for a patient, could be a pharmacotherapy, could be a balloon treatment, could be a bariatric surgery, or a dietary treatment. Once the patient has lost weight, what is very much important to maintain that weight is your diet and nutrition. Now, the principles of nutrition therapy in general, like we know, everybody says balanced diet is essential. Of course, balanced diet is essential. But in case of obesity, the principle of the balanced diet remains the same, but we might have to change the standardized RDA to something that is a bit calorie deficient. Carbohydrate, protein, fats, and fibers form the major source of nutrients for anybody's need. In case of obesity, we need to revise this macronutrient requirement. Maybe depending on the grade of obesity, comorbidities like patient with diabetes and renal problems, the protein requirement might be different. patient who is only obese, the carbohydrate requirements might vary. For example, we say 1 gram per kg body weight is the protein requirement for a normal person. In case of diabetic patient, it could be 0.8. In case of patients who have renal problems, it could be 0.5. So the guidelines needs to be edited as per the disease and obesity. Now, what a patient needs to understand when he is adjusting his requirements is your calories. That is, every patient who is suffering from obesity should know his calorie requirement, actual calorie consumption, and calorie deficit needed. There are different apps available right now which help you to count your calories or let you know the calorie consumption. But what is more important and where nutritionists play a very important role is how to achieve the calorie deficit diet, how to achieve or take the diet that is required. Because nutritionists just don't calculate, or diets are not just to calculate the calories, but it is to calculate the calorie requirement as per your physical activity, as per your disease factor, and as per your age, etc. Calculating that helps you to form a diet which you can follow throughout your lifestyle. Like I mentioned, there are different types of diets which can be followed. There are low calorie diets, there are very low calorie diets. There are patients also lose weight by randomly reducing 500 kilocalories randomly from their diets overall. But what we need to understand is it's not a short duration diet. What is going to help you is sustainability in the diet. No matter what therapy you take, it has to be in adjunct with some exercise, some physical activity, some pharmacotherapy if required. Many a times our patients, like when we are talking about obesity and diabetes, do require some physical activity. Patients who are obese might have problem in doing some exercises, and like Dr. Shashank Shah rightly mentioned, that aquatherapy can prove one of the best treatment for patients as it is less weight bearing activity. Now, when we talk about different types of diets, we have to make a smart use of proteins, fibers, meal replacers to achieve our goals and maintain the weight and satiety as well. Now, when I say I am a bariatric nutritionist, many a times it is misinterpreted that I might give a small portion to all the patients or I'm trained in bariatrics only. But I must tell you, bariatric nutrition helps us to apply the same logic and principles in patients who have not underwent the bariatric procedures but are still trying to lose weight. For example, what I learned, I would like to share few examples and few points that I learned in this 5 years working as a chief bariatric nutritionist. I must tell you, obesity is a type of malnutrition. We often feel that a patient who walks in is overweight, that means he is overnourished, he has adequate of stores in his body. But I must tell you, what he has is just fat, and we have screened many patients prior to the treatment. Whatever the treatment it is, could be a diet, could be balloon, could be pharmacotherapy or bariatric surgery, we have found that almost every patient is deficient in nutrients. Nutrient deficiency can also result in excessive craving, hunger, appetite, which leads to weight gain. So screening of a patient and considering obesity as a disease is very important. Second thing, what we learned is patients after bariatric surgery can survive on less than 1000 or up to 1200 kilocalories up to 1 to 1.5 years after the procedure. Now you might think that because they have underwent the procedure, they can survive. But what we have observed is after 1 to 2 years, the volume still is considerable like normal individuals and they can survive. That means the energy requirement, body can survive and sustain even in 1000 calories. Only thing what we need to monitor is you get all the nutrients in small amount. Smart use of nutraceuticals. There are different functional foods like Garcinia, green tea extracts, There are omega-3 fatty acids through arzavas or flax seeds. There are different types of teas, herbal teas available. Use of those also help to boost your immunity, to boost your metabolism and enhance the result. Now these nutraceuticals are also rich in your vitamins and minerals, which again help you to achieve the goal and RDF. Achieving nutrient requirements in small portions. After bariatric surgery, we nutritionists have a challenge to give to give nutrients in a very small quantity because the pouch is small. This helps us to understand that even in patients who are on low calorie diet or very low calorie diet, we can use the same principle, give them food which would improve satiety, like high fiber diets with adequate proteins, which would help them achieve their goals of weight loss, and still they would feel full and enjoy the meals. What we need to understand as a weight loss therapist or as a nutritionist is nutrition obviously is important, but it might not work as a sole treatment in all the scenarios. Sometimes we might have to take help of bariatric surgery, pharmacotherapy, or maybe some other therapies like aquatherapy to help patient lose weight. Apart from food, diet, exercise, there is something which we should understand is hormones and adaptation to hormones. We have to be very much aware of those adaptations and plan meals accordingly so that the patient maintains and loses the weight throughout. When I say that we need to eat fiber, we need to eat proteins, we need to have meal replacements, doesn't mean that you have to shift from your regular traditional meals. Everybody wants to enjoy traditional meals. Satisfaction of eating is only when we eat our core food or our staple food. A South Indian patient would obviously feel full after eating a idli. A Maharashtrian patient would feel full after eating chapati. This is because our body, our metabolism, our genetics are meant to eat what is cooked as our staple food. The only thing what I would like to give you a small tip today is just modify the form of food that you eat if you're trying to seek weight loss or if you are in the maintenance phase. For example, if you wish to eat idli, you can have idli provided you make it from the whole grain like a dalia idli with lot of vegetables, kothambir vade, which is the traditional food of Maharashtrian or a traditional snack. Every time we need not fry, you can use alternative cooking methods like air fried kothambir vade. You can use alternative treatments like steamed kothambir vade. You can use different methods of cooking like microwave cooking, air fryer cooking, steamers, which help you enjoy the food. And still, normal chapati, instead of using just refined flour or sieved flour, wheat flour, you can use mixture of flours which helps you to get all the nutrients, fiber, and maintain the portion size. Important considerations after weight loss or during weight loss. Now all this, we feel that nutrition and diet is important to lose weight, to reduce hunger, to give satiety, etc. But what is more important is few things that we need to consider as a healthcare professionals. Whenever a patient starts losing weight, whenever a patient loses excessive weight, there is a chances of formation of gallstones. Like Dr. Shah rightly mentioned, treating obesity is a multidisciplinary approach. I agree to it, and I would like to tell you that whenever a patient loses significant amount of weight, it is a role of a nutritionist or a physical trainer to help him seek advice from an obesity physician for prevention of gallstones. Then hair fall. You all work in the same field. You might be seeing patients who lose significant amount of weight and might complain of hair fall. Hair fall after any kind of weight loss is known. We can do as a nutritionist is understand this concern, think scientifically, add some nutrients which are necessary like iron, protein, biotin. So it's not about giving low carb diet, high protein diet, or low fat diet or keto diet. It is just involving all the nutrients, taking into consideration other problems other than number of kgs. Skin tightening. Many a times when a patient loses significant amount of weight, that time patient feels or has lot of skin sagging. If we train patient with some exercises simultaneously, if we give him some nutrients like proteins, good hydration, maybe through supplements or dietary proteins, that helps patient feel better, look better. Just patient is never happy just by losing number of kgs. He wants his hair to be good, he wants his skin to be good, and as a healthcare professions, we have to make patients happy no matter with all the things and not just with weight. Nutrition is the key for good health, better immunity, prevention of diseases. Now we all are facing a problem of pandemic COVID-19. Now you must have come across the news. We all are reading that patients who are at risk are diabetic, obese, patients with less immunity or poor immunity. I won't say that good nutrition is going to be a treatment for this pandemic or the patient who has good immunity, but you have to be healthy to fight against such viruses, such immune based diseases. So, and for that you need to have a good nutrition throughout. It's not a miracle that you eat a lot of veggies and immune boosters in this quarantine period and you get a good immunity tomorrow. It's never like that, but it is a journey which is going to start with us and end with us. Obesity as a disease is also a companion for us lifetime. So we have to make behavioral as well as lifestyle changes to fight against this epidemic or this obesity. We have to learn how to eat, enjoy eating, and still maintain health. Thank you.
Can we have Dr. Sudeep Kale to take over, please? Sudeep, sir? Okay, I think there's some network issues. Till then, we can just start with a few questions for our speakers till we can reconnect. So there are a few questions that I will be putting up to our speakers. This is a question for Dr. Shashank Shah. Sir, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay. Okay. So our viewers want to know how to select the protocol for obesity grade 4 patients.
Okay, so obesity grade 2 patients primarily should have some months of attempts of lifestyle change, dietary therapy, some medications, and they should set a goal for themselves, maybe at 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. And I would say it is not unending. We see patients trying for 8 years, 10 years, and then develop various comorbidities and then come to seek final treatment. That's not the right approach. Everyone should have a goal, evaluate the success, and I must say, every time failure is not inability of the patient, but it could be body's compensatory physiology, body's hormones which are trying to get the weight back. So it is wrong to blame an obese person or overweight person that a person doesn't have willpower. This is an important point. However, a lifestyle change, properly maintained diet, exercise, all these as much as possible in addition to their career and business lifestyle. A combination should set a goal. And if that doesn't work and there are comorbidities like what I mentioned earlier, then bariatric surgery can definitely give a long-term solution. However, even after that, they need to follow a certain lifestyle, but it is easier to follow it after surgery.
Thank you, sir. Also, there's one more question that because hydrotherapy puts a lot of compressive effect on the chest and the kidneys, will it be advisable for all the patients or will it cause any renal overload?
Interesting question. I am very happy that the person is thinking of this option for post-operative therapy. So you need not necessarily always get the patient totally underwater. Maybe someone is thinking of swimming. The person could be only up to the waist till the person loses weight, his breathing difficulty reduces, and then we could maybe submerge the more. But the protocol for obesity management is under preparation, and by the time this COVID era is over, we will have a protocol which will be based on BMI, VO2 max, respiratory reserve, maybe the joint pain severity, and we would be able to offer it to anyone and everyone.
Thank you, sir. So one last question for you. What are the possible complications post any bariatric surgery?
Very interesting question. So let me put it the other way around. One must think of all complications of obesity, diabetes, and we find that obesity is a precursor to majority of diseases. It's called mother of all diseases. It almost affects every organ in the body. Almost 80% patients admitted in the ICU who succumb are suffering from some grade of obesity. Even 36 patients who are affected by COVID in Europe have high BMI and morbid obesity, same is in US. So it does reduce immunity. Any treatment, any surgery has complication. However, surgery is extremely standardized, extremely advanced, extremely protocol based with more than 5 decades of experience. And now the complication rate is almost equivalent to a normal delivery or a normal laparoscopic gallbladder procedure, and this is based on long-term evaluation and evidence and published paper. So now it is almost a daycare, painless keyhole procedure. Many patients walk away the next day and no one can even make out. We in fact find that many patients hide that they have undergone bariatric surgery. This is possible because it is painless and very comfortable for any patient. However, a thorough evaluation, a thorough preparation, getting treated in a high volume center, center of excellence, accredited center, and following properly would minimize the complication to an acceptable or almost negligible level.
Thank you so much, sir. We will connect back to you as we get Dr. Sudeep Kale online. Till then, I have a few questions for our next speaker, Dr. Pooja. Dr. Pooja, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are patients who want to know a little in detail about aquatic therapy and how it can help in managing PCOD and obesity.
So in PCOD, it's usually the weight is gained, you feel more lethargic, your menstrual cycle is disturbed as well. So we have treated 3 to 4 clients with the same issue. They were overweight and their lifestyle also was a little stressful. So we had a thorough evaluation first before making them do any sort of exercises. So we started with the aqua therapy for them. Moderate intensity, 40% of heart rate reserve, and then taking it further. So initially in the first 1-2 weeks, we did not find any change, but gradually the percentage of fat mass and the fat-free mass changed. The weight came down to 2 kgs and then they found the difference. So of course, you should be prepared that there will not be immediate result. You will have to prepare your body for the exercises and then take it from there. So in PCOS, yes, exercises in aqua and land helps a lot. So reducing the fat content in the body and normalizing the menstrual cycle, it helps them like that.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja. I think we have Dr. Sudeep Kale back online. Sir, are you there?
Yes, sorry for the technical inconvenience.
No problem, sir. You can take over from here.
There is one question. What is the management of fatty liver grade 1? What is the management for fatty liver grade 1? Can it be managed conservatively?
Yes. Who is this question addressed to?
Both Sergio and Dr. Pooja.
I would give it to Dr. Pooja. It's medical therapy.
So,
Dr. Pooja, you can comment.
Yes, sir. So fatty liver, first we will need a detailed evaluation accordingly that if with the fatty liver anything else is also affected, and then we will start up with certain amount of exercises, and if the patient is okay with that amount of intensity, we will go forward with it. If in the starting only, if he is having any certain issues, if he is falling in the red flag area, then we will be referring it back to the physician for further more evaluation. So we will need a further detailed history for the fatty liver, because it cannot be only done by exercises. We will need certain blood profiles, we will need the cholesterol content in the body, and then we will be going further.
One more question to you, Dr. Pooja.
Yes, sir.
Question is, when to start aquatic therapy after bariatric surgery?
So
After how
after
many days you have to start?
Yes. So after bariatric surgery, if there are any open wounds and everything, we will have to see the skin conditions first. Once everything is healed, then we can take the permission from Dr. Shashank whether we can start up with the therapy. And first 3 months, we will be starting with very slow amount of exercises. And if we are taking them in aqua, we will start with a waist length in immersion in the water. In the waist depth immersion, we will see how is he hemodynamically stable, if he is performing his activities well. And after he is good to go with the waist level immersion, then we will progress to the chest level immersion. In that also, we will see his responding to the heart rate, his blood pressures are normalized, and then we will go on with the exercise intensity. Of course, the exercises will have to go slowly and steadily, and then progress to aerobic conditioning and so on.
Dr. Shashank sir, there is a question for you. Shashank sir.
Yes, please. I am there.
What is the youngest age for the bariatric surgery?
So earlier, the age for bariatric surgery was defined as 18. However, because of onset and pandemic of childhood obesity and onset of diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure at an earlier age, it was brought down to 15 by most of the pediatric organizations. However, even below a age of 15, if there are diseases like type 2 diabetes, severe fatty liver disease, or any cardiac disorder because of the pulmonary overload, maybe just imagine if a child develops diabetes at the age of 13 or 14, secondary to obesity, generally 15 to 20 years of diabetes start giving rise to life-threatening complications, which would be maybe before the age of 40. Of course, this is on case-to-case basis. The weight is after the growing age of 15, but we have many who are treated below the age of 15, but with a pediatric endocrinologist, pediatrician, and maybe a center which can cater to such patients in a protocol and a certified center. But these can be treated, but they are exceptions. One must try all other modalities, and I believe to some extent they are possible. If you start in time, they are possible. If you are very late, bariatric surgery can definitely reverse them.
Sir, what was the age which you operated and that was recorded in the world record? What was that age of the
youngest
patient?
That time? I operated in 2008. That time probably no one thought of operating at such age, but he was 7.5 years old. He was 115 kg. BMI was like 100. He had diabetes at that age. That boy used to get admitted in the intensive care unit for respiratory infection, breathlessness, and poor child wanted just to play. He came to me because he couldn't play. But now, after almost 14 years, he's a football player, tall, handsome young boy. I'm very happy that in retrospect, I believe that this is the best example. And I'm happy to state that BBC followed that boy for 10 years and then released the documentary for pediatric obesity as an ideal example of bariatric surgery treating such a child.
That's great, sir. One more question to you. How safe is bariatric surgery and what are the post-operative precautions?
Okay, about the safety I just mentioned earlier, it's very standardized. It is not an open procedure, it's a keyhole procedure. Equipment, automated suturing devices, advances in anesthesia have made it very simple, protocol based. I take almost 30 to 40 minutes for a procedure and patient starts walking 2 hours after the procedure, and this is literally true for any weight patient who could walk earlier. However, the care of the procedure is more important. They have certain phases of diet starting from clear to thick, liquid to soft diet and then to solid food over for 6 weeks. They are given nutritional supplements, some vitamins to correct their vitamin deficiency, and most important, they have been taught breathing exercises, various types of exercises, physiotherapy for all their joints. So slowly they become pain free, they become more ambulatory, and it helps them improve their respiratory system, lose more weight. And recently, I am looking at adding aquacentric therapy, like they can start maybe immediately in 2 weeks' time for exercises, walk underwater, as rightly mentioned by Dr. Pooja, below the waist, maybe something on the ground as well simultaneously to improve their respiratory reserve, and all put together, probably the result which could be achieved at the end of 1 year, we can look at achieving just in 6 months.
Sir, for how long should one, the question is, before getting for the bariatric surgery, prior to that, for how many months or years non-surgical treatments has to be taken? Is it there in criteria?
I must tell you that majority of the patients come to us after 10, 15, 20 years of attempt. So when someone is morbidly obese, there is hardly anyone who has not attempted. But still, if they want to start from our visit or from that day, as I mentioned, they should have a goal after every 3 months, and there should be at least 5 to 10% weight reduction every 3 months. And if that doesn't succeed, that means the body's metabolism has compensatory changes, which is going to make it difficult for a person to lose weight. There is nothing to feel helpless. If there is a scientific option of keyhole treatment, maybe one should go for the best approach scientific option, and then those patients can definitely benefit for metabolic and bariatric surgery. And I'm saying it metabolic and bariatric surgery because it does change metabolism. It improves your resting energy expenditure. It improves your overall metabolic rate, and that is how you maintain your weight loss over a long term.
Next question is to Dr. Pooja. Aquatic treadmill is better option or zero treadmill, gravity treadmill is better option for obesity?
Sorry, sir, could you please repeat?
For obese patient, aquatic treadmill is a better option or zero gravity treadmill?
Okay. So in aquatic treadmill, it is easier to perform in water. So in normal treadmill, if you do your normal walking, it is fine. But if you want to increase your calorie expenditure and exercise at a better capacity, treadmill in aqua is a much better option because running it impacts less on the joint and therefore it is more convenient. But on the same side, if you perform it on land, so it is going to impact your joints in some or the other way. But normal walking in the treadmill is fine. But running, if you want to say, then you can go for an aquatic treadmill.
Can you elaborate aquatic deduction factor?
Yeah. So as we have Carnovin's formula for training heart rate intensity on land, and we will be taking into account the minimum and the maximum intensity, right? So in aqua, we cannot take the same formula. The reason behind being because of the cardiac functions change as you immerse in water. Initially, if you enter the water, your heart rate will shoot up, but after 3 minutes, it will come down. So that is why the aquatic reduction equation is considered for taking the aquatic intensity. So if you see my example for the 50 years old female, the aquatic reduction for her was 8. So I'll explain it again. So if I am a patient and I am going for aquatic setup, so first my land heart rate will be measured. After that, I will be entering the pool, and post 3 minutes after entering the pool, my heart rate will be checked again. Now the heart rate on land will be deducted from the heart rate in aqua, and we will get a number that is the aquatic reduction factor. And that number will be added to the Carnovin's formula, and therefore we will get the aquatic heart rate intensity for that much, for that patient.
Now the question is to the sir. The question is, can you elaborate on the endocrine parameters of post-surgery? endocrine parameters post-surgery.
Okay. So I must tell you that majority of the bariatric surgeries are performed when there are no known endocrine disorders which could be corrected. Only though the non-endocrine obesity, the treatment is done. However, endocrine is a vast system. So we need to evaluate every type of hormone, right from patient's sugar, insulin resistance, insulin sensitivity, maybe the ovarian hormones in female, pre and total testosterone in males, and many other relevant hormones as and when required based on patient's clinical condition. However, we evaluate majority of them at baseline and follow them at 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year, and then maybe yearly thereafter.
Sir, one more question is to you.
Yes.
Is it possible post-surgery relapse of obesity? Is it possible?
Yes. So it is like any other disorder, it's a chronic disorder. But I must tell you, if you do not want it to relapse, then the decision should be taken in time. I see patients BMI crossing 40, 45, and still they struggle for 10 years and then come for treatment. If you are very, very late in taking your decision, the chances of relapse are high because body adapts, body set point or body physiology is set to that higher BMI. That's number one. Maybe those who are super obese need more care. However, the best success of long-term weight loss maintenance is learning your new lifestyle changes. Maybe you can enjoy, but occasionally not abuse anything. Keep a healthy and active life. Use exercise, physiotherapy as and when needed. If there is a combination of all these and the patient is engaged in some kind of support group or somewhere where there is motivation for weight loss and doesn't try and follow any fight diet or online advices on his own or on her own, probably that's the best way to maintain your weight loss. However, some relapse is possible. Someone who's 150 kg comes down to 70 kg does not mean that the person will remain 70 kg for lifetime. Everyone slowly gains some weight over years because as your age advances, the metabolic rate slows down. If you want to prevent it, one must have an active lifestyle and some exercise every day. However, if the person gains 10, 20 kgs in the next 5 to 10 years, I would still say it is still healthy because most of its comorbidities, breathlessness, joint pain, diabetes still remain in remission. But there are now newer options. Newer options, maybe I would add aquacentric therapy as one, pharmacotherapy as two, maybe a newer dietary options and nutraceutical as number three. If you have all these combined at the right time, when the person just starts gaining weight, it can be prevented, it can be stopped. And I find that all these therapies together can prolong the results of bariatric surgery, and not only that, maybe improve patients' overall well-being, self-esteem, and activity level.
Sir, in such situation, whether there is need to do the surgery again?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
In such cases, post-surgery, even the person is getting the obesity. In that situation, second surgery is advisable?
Okay, that's an interesting question. Let me give you an example. Someone undergoes angioplasty this year, and after 4 years, maybe another vessel gets blocked. Would that person need another
So
angioplasty?
Dhwani, one or two questions to Radhika as well.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
it is.
And so we can ask Dr. Sudeep Kale. We have
Next question
3
will be
minutes
to
in the hand.
Dr.
Yeah.
Radhika.
So it is a progression of disease. Any progression of disease needs frequent intervention. However, fortunately, less than 3 to 4% patients only need this revision. And I'm happy that with this webinar, we are giving more tips to prevent this relapse and a second stage post-procedure.
Now the question is to Dr. Radhika and Dr. Pooja both. Question is same, but their answer we expect. It is always said that the patient with normal BMI, proper diet, and even doing the proper exercises to reduce the weight, but even after doing that, still the patients are unable to burn the fat in the tummies, abdominal area. What can be done for it? And the question is it so difficult to burn the fat from the abdomen? Dr. Radhika, your view as a nutritionist.
Yes. So I think The question is really very interesting, and everybody is facing the same problem. Many a times patients lose weight otherwise, but the abdominal fat, which is a bit reluctant, we can say, to go away. So though your diet, your exercise is correct as per the patient's thought process, we need to evaluate completely. We need to evaluate the patient's metabolic profile as well. It's not just about the calories. We have to evaluate the form of calories in this case also. Maybe some kind of evaluation like liver size needs to be evaluated, and then we can uh, form a therapy, or we can, we can find a treatment, right, possible treatment and intervention for this kind of patients, because central adiposity is something which needs to be addressed primarily than overall obesity, because it is the risk factor for all the diseases like diabetes, hypertension, and metabolic syndrome that we need. So it needs aggressive treatment and needs a complete scientific evaluation. Just exercise and diets won't be sufficient at that time, and I think even Dr. Shah can throw a light on this problem, because we have many patients coming in with such problems and we do treat them. So I think even Dr. Shah can give his advice, opinion on this.
First, Dr. Pooja, the question was addressed to you as well. So you have
Yes,
more
sir.
role in localized physiotherapy, maybe muscle toning. Sometimes it is laxity of muscle, sometimes it is laxity of skin. And apart from nutrition, probably focused exercises, physiotherapy, and strengthening of muscles in that area can help. We can always add some medications to accelerate weight loss, and maybe some other options where reduction in calories, increasing protein content, reducing calories by offering medication or some restriction through maybe endoscopy or counseling, and then addition of some exercise, but I'll pass it on to Dr.
I completely agree with Dr. Shashank and Dr. Ms. Radhika. So detailed evaluation is necessary, and if you come to me, I would like to assess your core. So at times your core muscles are not adequately used, so that can be one of the factor where the muscles are sagging in the abdomen. So we need to assess your core as well, and once you're using your core very good, I think there will be some changes in your abdominal obesity, but of course they will need a detailed evaluation, as Ms. Radhika said that.
So I think Dr. Sudeep Kale has dropped out again. We'll be taking last two questions. One is for Dr. Radhika. Can you please suggest a few booster diet for the obese people?
Okay. So immunobooster diets are basically diets that are rich in antioxidants, what we can say, like fruits, vegetables, especially vitamin C rich fruits, like you can say simple lemon, sweet lime, oranges, turmeric in the diet. All these boost your immunity. Vegetables like carrots, green leafy vegetables are something those boost your immunity. Apart from that, what you have to take into consideration is, you make a point that it immunobooster diets are not directly going to affect your directly going to affect your obesity. They are going to take care of the metabolic syndrome basically, because they are antioxidants, so they cannot be used as the sole treatment for your weight loss. It has to be in association with reduced calories and proper tailor-made diet to lose weight. So it has to be the balance between immunoboosters plus macronutrients needs to be addressed very well, needs to be calculated as per the disease factor, and then you can introduce these herbal teas, green tea extracts, even few protein supplements which are fortified with green tea extract or garcinia. All these can boost your immunity as well as help you improve your metabolism. But these are again in association with the low calorie diet.
Thank you so much, Ms. Radhika. The last question is for all our speakers. It's an open question. Is there any takeaway message that you would like to give to our viewers? We can start with you, Dr. Shashank.
Yes. The best thing is prevention. Be aware of your metabolism, your calories, your genetic predisposition. Try and prevent obesity. Keep your immunity at the peak by learning all this. If it doesn't happen and unfortunately you have morbid obesity or some such condition, then maybe the scientific treatment like metabolic and bariatric surgery can reverse all those diseases and you again go back to the prevention mode of continuing it. And I must say that there is nothing to lose. There is always a success in treating all these obesity or comorbid conditions. One should start today, immediately. COVID probably is an example where we see that if your immunity is better, if your respiratory reserve is better, you can fight all such conditions better. So I believe that this is a lesson for everyone to again defeat the pandemic of obesity and diabetes in our country by a healthier lifestyle, all type of exercise, physiotherapy, and being aware of what you eat and what your requirements are.
Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Pooja, what do you have to say?
Everyone is at home. There's a lot of stress at everyone's place. So I will like everyone to get involved in certain amount of physical activity. It will help in boosting your emotions and reduce your stress levels at home sitting. And of course, diet is the main important thing. Don't keep on binge eating and eat healthy, live better.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pooja. Ms. Radhika?
Yeah, so I think both of them, Dr. Pooja and Dr. Shah, has even covered most of the points, but I would still like to tell when it comes to diet, I would like everybody to follow one rule that anything in excess is definitely going to affect your health in some way. So everything in moderation needs to be done. When it comes to treatment of obesity, I would like to give a message. We have all the experts who are here to treat your obesity. Like we are fearing of COVID-19, obesity is one of the similar kind of problem which is affecting everyone, though it's not communicable, but it is affecting. So I would suggest take help, seek help from everyone. Just don't fall prey to whatever comes online. Everything online is not always correct. Diets are tailor-made. We often feel and often hear and start following anything blindly. Don't follow, though it is not a medicine, but it can affect your health in either way, in a good as well as in a bad way. A simple message: we all have a lot of time now when in this lockdown. I know everybody is busy cooking, posting all the recipes, like there are many trends coming up, cooking like a dalgona coffee, etc. I would just give a one tip. If everybody tries and make attempt to cook one recipe without oil and without sugar, we can still fight with this obesity as well, along with corona.
Thank you so much.
The list.
Thank you.
Just one more addition that we find it very interesting and we find so many questions. Maybe some questions may remain unanswered. However, you can still continue to ask these questions on our Facebook book of Aquacentric, and we will still be there to help you even later.
Yes.
Total more than I think 50 questions we got. It is difficult to answer all. You can post it to the Facebook. We'll try to answer it. I'm thankful to all the speakers and Aquacentric for organizing such a wonderful session. This is the third day and we're expecting same response for your all coming activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So with this, we come to an end of our today's session. I hope it was interesting for everybody. I would like to thank all our speakers for amazing presentation from your side. And I would like to thank our chairperson, of course, for with your honor. It's a real honor with your presence with us today. And I would like to thank our viewers especially, who have given us that overwhelming response since the past 3 days. And I hope this response continues for the few coming sessions that we have, because we have very interesting topics coming up again. So with this, we would like to sign off for today. with a preview for tomorrow's session. So I will just share. Sorry, I think there's some technical issue, but our topic for discussion tomorrow is going to be on various dysfunctions of pelvic floor. So I hope we all come back again tomorrow at 4 p.m. on Zoom and on Facebook. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll be signing off for today. Thank you.
Thank you.